They weren't just defenders. They were erasers, shadow walkers, game breakers. Quarterbacks feared them, coaches schemed around them, and fans, they watched in awe as these legends turned Sundays into shutdowns. From bone-crunching hits to soul-stealing interceptions, these cornerbacks didn't just play the game, they controlled it. Some changed the rules, others redefined the position. All of them left a mark you couldn't ignore. This is the countdown of the greatest to ever do it. These are the top 10 cornerbacks in NFL history. It's 1970, the NFC Championship, and Mel Renfro is in the eye of a storm. The San Francisco 49ers are threatening late, clawing their way back, and the Cowboys' defense is holding by threads. Then comes a bullet from John Brody, streaking toward the sideline. Renfro cuts underneath, leaps like a hawk in full flight, and snatches the game from the sky. That moment didn't just send Dallas to their first Super Bowl, it cemented Mel Renfro as one of the greats in the game's coldest, highest stakes moments. When Mel Renfro entered the league in 1964, he was a blur out of Oregon. An All-American in both football and track, he brought an athlete's grace and a warrior's edge. But back then, he wasn't even supposed to be a cornerback. The Cowboys drafted him to play offense. He was electric with the ball in his hands, but Tom Landry had other plans. He moved Renfro to the defensive backfield, where he wouldn't just adapt, he would dominate. By his second season, Renfro was already being talked about in reverent tones. He had a knack for reading quarterbacks like a book, but what truly separated him was his closing speed. He could be 3 steps behind and still beat the receiver to the ball. In 1969, he led the league in interceptions. That same season, he earned yet another Pro Bowl nod, part of a staggering stretch of 10 straight appearances. For nearly a decade, if you threw toward Renfro, you were playing with fire, and most quarterbacks learned that lesson the hard way. His biggest games often came when the lights burned brightest. He forced turnovers in multiple playoff games. He shut down Hall of Fame receivers. He tracked deep balls with the same ease he once showed on Oregon's track team. But Renfro wasn't just a ball hawk. He tackled with purpose. He took pride in being the last line of defense, the one who erased mistakes. Despite all this, Mel Renfro's legacy was oddly delayed. It took until 1996, almost 2 full decades after he retired, for him to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. By then, the highlight reels had faded, and the world had moved on to flashier names. But those who watched him knew. They knew the difference between a good corner and a game changer. They knew Mel Renfro was special long before Canton did. He walked away from football with 52 career interceptions, multiple All-Pro selections, and a pair of Super Bowl rings. But more than that, he left behind a blueprint. Renfro wasn't loud. He wasn't flashy. He just made plays that broke hearts and changed seasons. And in the conversation of all-time great cornerbacks, when you dig beneath the hype, you'll find Renfro standing there, quiet, precise, and absolutely undeniable. It was January 19, 2014. The NFC Championship. The stakes? Everything. With less than a minute left, Colin Kaepernick fired a pass to Michael Crabtree in the corner of the end zone. The ball hung in the air for a heartbeat too long. That was all Richard Sherman needed. He launched into the sky, extended every inch of his frame, and with the tip of his fingers, he changed the course of history. The deflection landed in the arms of Malcolm Smith, and the Seahawks were headed to the Super Bowl. Moments later, Sherman stood on national TV roaring into the microphone, not just celebrating, but daring the world to recognize him. "I'm the best corner in the game." But Sherman wasn't supposed to be here. He was a 5th-round pick, a converted wide receiver, a long, lanky kid out of Compton who'd studied at Stanford and carried a chip on his shoulder the size of an 18-wheeler. Scouts didn't love his speed. They didn't trust his technique. But Sherman trusted himself. He had a mind that dissected offenses like puzzles and a mouth that made sure you knew it. By his second year, he wasn't just good, he was elite. Quarterbacks stopped throwing his way. When they did, they paid. In 2013, Sherman led the league in interceptions. But it wasn't just about numbers, it was about tone, swagger. Seattle's defense, the Legion of Boom, was the most feared unit in football, and Sherman was its loudest, sharpest, and most dangerous voice. He didn't just talk, he backed it up. Over the stretch from 2011 to 2015, no cornerback allowed fewer completions, fewer yards, or fewer touchdowns. He wasn't chasing stats, he was erasing options. He made quarterbacks hesitate. He made coordinators rewrite game plans. His intelligence and anticipation turned every pass to his side into a risk. But his journey wasn't without turbulence. There were the post-game rants, the public spats, the debates about whether his fire helped or hurt. In 2017, the Seahawks dynasty began to crack. Injuries took their toll, and Sherman was let go. Many thought he was finished. He wasn't. He signed with San Francisco and in 2019 helped lead a young 49ers defense to the Super Bowl. Even past his physical prime, Sherman's brain kept him dangerous. He became a mentor, a leader, and still, in critical moments, a closer. Now looking back, his legacy is undeniable. He wasn't just a shutdown corner, he was a cultural force. One of the smartest players to ever patrol the secondary. A man who walked into every stadium believing he was the best, and for a time made the rest of the league believe it too. In a top 10 cornerbacks list, you don't leave out Richard Sherman. You just don't, because greatness isn't always quiet. Sometimes it's loud, it's unapologetic. It's a deflection in the end zone and a scream into the mic that still echoes today. He was 38 years old, his knees had seen 2 decades of collisions, sprints, and sharp cuts, and yet there he was on a Monday night chasing down a receiver nearly half his age, catching him like a shadow on the grass. Darrell Green didn't just outrun Father Time, he embarrassed it. When Darrell Green entered the NFL in 1983, he was already a myth in motion. A track phenom out of Texas, barely 5'9", barely 180 pounds, and yet impossibly fast. Not just football fast, world-class fast. He once ran a 4.29 in the 40-yard dash, and some still swear he did it faster. But he wasn't just a sprinter in pads, he was a technician, a student of the game, and most of all, a competitor with no reverse gear. Washington drafted him in the first round, but they couldn't have imagined what they were getting. In just his first game as a rookie, Green chased down Tony Dorsett, one of the fastest backs of the era, from behind. That became his calling card. It didn't matter how far ahead you were, if Green was in the stadium, you were never safe. Over 20 seasons with Washington, yes, 20, he became the very definition of consistency and longevity. He wasn't just there to fill space, he was locking down receivers, disrupting routes, and tracking down deep balls into his late 30s. He played in 295 games, recorded 54 interceptions, and returned 6 of them for touchdowns. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. Darrell Green wasn't just productive, he was reliable in a way that defied the laws of aging and physics. He won 2 Super Bowls, he was a 7-time Pro Bowler, he once intercepted a pass in 19 consecutive seasons, and perhaps the most telling stat, he was still starting at cornerback in the NFL the year Tom Brady was drafted. There were no scandals, no controversies, no loud outbursts or self-promotional headlines. Just work. Quiet, disciplined, brilliant work. Teammates revered him, opponents respected him, coaches trusted him like gravity. He retired at 42, a number that sounds like a typo when attached to a cornerback. But Darrell Green was an anomaly, a blueprint no one else could replicate. Even now, in an era of hyper athletes and advanced training, no one has lasted at his position like he did. There's a moment that still echoes in NFL Films montages. 2001 NFC Divisional Playoff. Brett Favre, the gunslinger himself, rolls out and fires a dart across the middle. It never makes it. Aenas Williams steps in front, snatches it in stride, and glides untouched into the end zone. Then, like a ghost revisiting the same grave, he does it again. 2 pick sixes, same game, same victim. That was Aenas Williams in a nutshell. Quiet, brilliant, and absolutely ruthless. He came into the league in 1991, a 3rd-round pick at a Southern University, a historically black college in Louisiana. He didn't play college football until his junior year. Scouts saw him as a late bloomer, but what bloomed wasn't just talent, it was instinct, patience, precision. From the moment he stepped into the Cardinals locker room, he was the best corner on the roster. By the end of his rookie year, he was one of the best in football. And he did it in football exile. Arizona in the 90s was a career graveyard for most players. No national spotlight, no playoff runs, no elite pass rush making life easy on the back end. But Williams thrived in the shadows. He covered the opponent's best receiver every week. He baited quarterbacks into mistakes, and he hit like a safety when it mattered. He was more than just coverage. He was timing, craft, surgical disruption. He recorded 55 career interceptions, many of them the result of pure anticipation, not guesses, calculations. Film study transformed him into a mind reader with cleats. Wideouts didn't just have to get open, they had to fool Aenas, and that almost never happened. For 8 years, he carried a struggling franchise on his back. 7 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pro selections, and yet barely a whisper outside Arizona. So in 2001, when he joined the St. Louis Rams, finally surrounded by talent, the world saw what he could do in January. That year, he helped anchor the Rams defense all the way to the Super Bowl. Even at 33, he was a nightmare in coverage, still playing corner, still dictating tempo to receivers who were 10 years younger. But here's the twist. He didn't just finish as a corner. He transitioned to safety late in his career and thrived there too. Most corners fade with time. He adapted, extended his relevance, added chapters to a legacy that refused to fade quietly. Picture it, 1976. The NFL is a brutal place, and wide receivers are stepping onto the field knowing that before they even run a route, they'll have to survive him. Mel Blount stands at 6'3", 205 pounds, built like a linebacker, fast as a gazelle, and meaner than the weather in Pittsburgh that December. He isn't just covering receivers, he's erasing them. They don't get clean releases, they don't get rhythm, sometimes they don't even get up. That year, Mel Blount intercepted 11 passes, but that's not the stat that changed history. His physical dominance forced the league to intervene. The NFL rewrote its rulebook, literally changed the way defense could be played because of Mel Blount. The Mel Blount rule, which limited contact beyond 5 yards, wasn't just a shift, it was a surrender. The league was saying this man is too good, too physical, too disruptive. But before he broke the game, Blount had to break through expectations. Drafted in 1970 out of Southern University, a small HBCU in Louisiana, Blount wasn't an immediate star, but he was patient and smart and absolutely terrifying in man coverage. Within a few years, he became the prototype, not just for corners, but for the kind of swaggering, punishing defensive back that defined the Pittsburgh Steelers of the 70s. He played with a style that mirrored the steel curtain in front of him. Violent, disciplined, and unforgiving. Receivers feared the slant route. The moment they came across the middle, Blount was waiting, and he didn't tackle. He detonated. He helped the Steelers win 4 Super Bowls in 6 years. He made 5 Pro Bowls. He was named Defensive Player of the Year in 1975. But more than accolades, Blount brought an aura. His presence shifted offenses. His press technique became the stuff of legend. Long arms, vice grip hands, and the kind of footwork you usually see from ballet dancers, not enforcers. You cannot write the story of great cornerbacks without Mel Blount. You can't even begin. He forced the league to change. He redefined what power meant at the position, and he proved that greatness isn't just about numbers. It's about the fear you put in opponents and the rules you force the game to rewrite. It was Super Bowl 11. The stage was massive, the moment frozen in time. Fran Tarkenton released a pass desperate to keep the Vikings alive, but it never reached its mark. Willie Brown saw it before it left the quarterback's hand. He jumped the route, cradled the ball, and took off down the sideline. 45 yards later, he crossed the goal line, untouched, immortal. The pick six wasn't just a highlight, it was a closing statement. Willie Brown, the original shutdown corner, and put a final stamp on a Hall of Fame legacy. But to understand the man, you have to go back to the beginning. Brown wasn't drafted, not by a single team. Overlooked, ignored, doubted. He scraped his way onto the Houston Oilers roster as a free agent, only to be cut before his first season truly began. Most players would have disappeared there, but not Willie. The Denver Broncos gave him a shot, and he made them regret being late to the party. In Denver, he quickly became a starter and began to showcase the instincts and timing that would become his calling card. But the Broncos didn't understand what they had. They traded him to the Oakland Raiders in 1967, a decision that would haunt them for the next decade. With the Raiders, Willie Brown became a legend. Al Davis saw him not just as a player, but as a foundation. Brown wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, but he was devastatingly effective. His technique was flawless. His reads were second nature. He didn't just cover receivers, he stalked them. The ball would leave the quarterback's hand, and somehow, Willie would already be there. He finished his career with 54 interceptions, but the numbers don't tell the full story. This was the era of brutal, punishing football. No pampered pass interference flags, no 5-yard cushions. Corners had to survive, and Brown did more than that. He thrived. He made 9 Pro Bowls. He was named to the All-Decade Team of the 1970s. And most of all, he was the heart of one of the most feared secondaries in league history. Willie didn't seek the spotlight. He earned it. After retirement, he returned to the Raiders as a coach and mentor, helping guide new generations with the same quiet authority he played with. And when he walked into the Hall of Fame in 1984, one of the earliest modern corners to be enshrined, it was a reminder. He helped create the position as we know it. It was January 4th, 2002. Snow fell like ash over Foxborough. The Raiders were a breath away from the AFC Championship. Tom Brady dropped back, hesitated, and then Boom. Charles Woodson came flying off the edge, helmet first into Brady's chest. The ball popped loose, Oakland recovered, game over. Or so it should have been. Then came the words that would haunt Raiders fans forever. The tuck rule. The play was reversed, the Patriots went on to win, a dynasty was born, and Charles Woodson, he became the man who slammed the door shut, only to have someone else open it again. But if that moment left a scar, it never defined him. Charles Woodson entered the league in 1998 with a target on his back. The only defensive player to ever win the Heisman Trophy, the 4th overall pick, the face of a franchise desperate for a savior. And from day one, he delivered. Long, lean, and impossibly fluid, he moved like a wide receiver and hit like a linebacker. His footwork was clean, his instincts were savage. Quarterbacks quickly learned if you challenged him, you better be right. Most weren't. In Oakland, he was a star. But he was also combustible. Injuries and friction with coaches wore on him. By the mid-2000s, many thought he was on the decline. But in 2006, Woodson signed with the Green Bay Packers, and that's where everything changed. Green Bay didn't just revive his career, it elevated it. Dom Capers' defense unlocked his versatility. Cornerback, slot, safety, Woodson did it all. He wasn't just shutting down receivers anymore. He was blitzing, forcing fumbles, baiting quarterbacks into mistakes. In 2009, he won Defensive Player of the Year at age 33, the oldest to ever win it at the time. That year, he scored 3 defensive touchdowns and forced 9 turnovers. He didn't just play defense, he weaponized it. Then came 2010. Woodson, now the veteran heart of the Packers, led a young defense to a Super Bowl. And though he broke his collarbone in that game, he stood in the locker room at halftime, arm in a sling, and gave the speech that lit a fire under his team. Green Bay lifted the Lombardi that night, but they also lifted him, a warrior finally crowned. He returned to Oakland in the twilight of his career, not as a savior this time, but as a mentor, a leader, a symbol of what resilience looked like. He retired in 2015 with 65 interceptions, 33 forced turnovers, and a resume that screams first ballot Hall of Famer. Because that's exactly what he became. There's a clip from Super Bowl 33 that captures Mike Haynes in his purest form, stride for stride with Art Monk, one of the league's most precise route runners, and it looks like a mirror. Monk breaks inside, Haynes mirrors it. The ball comes, but Haynes never panics. He turns, reaches, and smothers the play like he knew it was coming hours ago. That was Mike Haynes. Smooth, silent, suffocating. He entered the league in 1976, a first-round pick by the New England Patriots. And from the very start, it was clear. Haynes didn't move like other corners. He glided. Every step was calculated. Every reaction was composed. There was no wasted motion, no panic, just a quiet confidence that made wide receivers hesitate before the snap. In his rookie year, he snagged 8 interceptions and earned Defensive Rookie of the Year. That wasn't a fluke, that was a warning. Haynes wasn't loud, he wasn't showy, he didn't talk trash or flex after pass breakups. He didn't have to. His game did the speaking. Technically perfect, relentlessly consistent, and terrifyingly complete. He could jam you at the line, he could turn and run, he could read your eyes and pick your pocket without ever breaking stride, and because of that, quarterbacks mostly stopped throwing his way. His numbers didn't scream dominance, they whispered it, because the best corners don't get chances, they shut down half the field. In 1983, Haynes forced his way to the Los Angeles Raiders after a bitter contract dispute with the Patriots. That move shifted the balance of power in the AFC. Lining up opposite Lester Hayes, the Raiders now had 2 shutdown corners. The result? Chaos for quarterbacks. That year, Haynes and Hayes led the Raiders to a dominant postseason run, capped off by a 38-9 demolition of Washington in Super Bowl 33. Haynes didn't just blanket receivers, he erased them. But beyond the tape, beyond the stats, Mike Haynes carried himself with rare dignity. He wasn't a self-promoter, he wasn't chasing headlines, he was chasing excellence, and he never stopped. He finished with 46 career interceptions, 9 Pro Bowls, and a gold jacket from Canton. But ask the legends who lined up across from him, and they'll tell you, Mike Haynes was the toughest test, the smartest corner, the one who never gave you a window. The ball was live, bouncing like chaos across the turf, and suddenly, there he was. Number 26, scooping it clean, flipping the field, and turning disaster into 6 points in the blink of an eye. That was Rod Woodson. In every phase, in every moment, he wasn't just present, he was dangerous. When the Pittsburgh Steelers drafted Rod Woodson in 1987, they didn't just find a cornerback, they found a weapon. A world-class track athlete who turned down the Olympics to join the NFL. Woodson came into the league with blazing speed, razor-sharp instincts, and a frame built to punish. From the start, you could tell this wasn't just another fast guy trying to play corner. This was a football mind with a sprinter's burst and a linebacker's mean streak. By his second year, quarterbacks were already looking the other way, and by 1993, he was the best corner in football, winning Defensive Player of the Year after a season filled with picks, forced fumbles, and game-breaking plays. He wasn't just covering, he was disrupting everything. Rod Woodson didn't play the position like a finesse artist. He played it like a storm. He pressed at the line, baited quarterbacks with subtle movements, and exploded on the ball like it had personally offended him. He forced 32 fumbles in his career, a ridiculous number for a corner, and returned 12 interceptions for touchdowns. When he got the ball, he didn't go down, he attacked. But then came 1995, week 1. An ACL tear. Back then, that was usually a death sentence for corners. For Rod, it was a pause. Nothing more. Months later, he returned to suit up in the Super Bowl. Same season, same year. First player in NFL history to do that. He lined up against Michael Irvin, no less. That's not rehab, that's legend. And when age started to chip away at his speed, Woodson did what only the greats do. He adapted. He moved to safety, extended his career, and became a whole new kind of threat. In 2002, at age 37, he led the league in interceptions and helped the Raiders reach the Super Bowl. Even then, after 15 seasons, quarterbacks were still making the mistake of testing him. He finished his career with 71 interceptions, third all time, 17 fumble recoveries, 13 Pro Bowl selections, 2 all-decade teams, and in 2009, his gold jacket from Canton. It starts with a hush in the crowd, then a gasp. A punt floats under the lights, and before the returner even touches it, you feel it. The electricity, the expectation. Then he appears, Deion Sanders.
Prime time.
He catches the ball in stride, cuts once, twice, then explodes like a firecracker down the sideline, arms spread, high-stepping from the 40-yard line in. The crowd loses its mind. The other team already demoralized. Because Deion didn't just make plays, he turned the field into a stage and the NFL into his personal highlight reel. When the Falcons took him 5th overall in 1989, Deion arrived with the flash of a rock star and the speed of a myth. Two-sport phenom, gold chains, designer suits, and swagger that dared you to test him. But underneath the charisma was something far more terrifying, pure, elite, generational talent. From day one, Sanders redefined the cornerback position. His technique was nearly effortless, his speed blinding. If you underthrew a deep ball by even a second, it was already his. If you challenged him on a comeback route, he was waiting, reading your eyes like a tell in a poker game. And when he got the ball, it was over. No one flipped the momentum of a game faster. But for all the showmanship, his play was as serious as it gets. In a league built on collisions and chaos, Deion mastered control. He was rarely penalized, rarely out of position, and rarely thrown at. Opposing quarterbacks often spent entire games looking to the opposite side of the field, terrified of waking the storm. He started in Atlanta, then elevated Dallas and San Francisco to new heights. In 1994 with the 49ers, he snagged 6 interceptions and returned 3 of them for touchdowns. One season, one Super Bowl. Then came Dallas, where he helped the Cowboys win another ring in 95. And yes, he played both ways, cornerback, wide receiver, and return man. Because for Deion, limitations were optional. Still, the critics lingered. They said he didn't tackle, and no, Deion wasn't coming downhill like Ronnie Lott, but he didn't need to. He changed games without ever making making contact. He flipped field position, changed coverages, took away entire halves of the field. His presence alone reshaped how offenses operated, and when the ball was in his hands, he made defenders look like extras in his personal movie. He retired with 53 interceptions, 9 return touchdowns, and a legacy that was as much about fear as it was about flash, because no one, not one cornerback, struck terror into quarterbacks and coordinators the way Deion Sanders did. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to press the like button and comment down below. Our last upload was about the top 10 most underrated receivers in NFL history. We post NFL documentaries regularly, so be sure to subscribe for the best content around.